waves. Now, there are waves on the surface of the oceans. We all see them, right? If you've been to an ocean, you've seen them. How many have you seen deep interoceanic currents? Seen it, felt it? Have you? Do you know when they exist?
No, I don't know. I've never heard that.
Yeah. Nothing wrong about not knowing about it. But we know today in deep oceans, Bahrun Bujji, not just shallow seas, in deep oceans, just like they have surface waves, in the oceanic water, there are currents, deep oceanic currents. They are like waves. You cannot see them. If you go out of space with your satellites, you're able to protect and go and observe that actually there seems to be some also deep oceanic currents. So an example the Quran provides about oceans, which is something that you would say, amazing. How would someone know this information living in a desert? Hardly there is any water.
Okay, I don't think that it's relevant that he's in a desert. Second of all, you have to show me the exact wording. So I'm just taking all your word for this. The fact that it gets dark down in the ocean, that's not impressive to know. I mean, that's quite obvious.
Was it?
Of course it is.
Was it obvious?
Of course.
Since when?
Any human being with a brain.
Since when? You need to provide it now. Provide the evidence that it was obvious.
Why? You could see you could see that clearly the further away you get from light, the darker something gets. So clearly down in the ocean it's going to get darker.
Do you know how much people can deep down unaided without a oxygen?
None of that's relevant to what I said. None of that's relevant to what I said.
30 meters?
None of that's relevant
10
to what I
meters?
said.
20 meters?
None of that's relevant to what I said. But yeah.
When you deep dive in an ocean, do you see total darkness?
Sorry?
When anyone deep dives in the oceans, do they actually see
You see it get darker, yes.
But how do you know it becomes total darkness?
Because you have a brain.
You have a brain.
Yeah.
And which brain individual talked about this? You should expect people who have been in their oceans all their life to talk about it. Yeah, scientists, for example, of
Yeah, I think that's quite an obvious point.
Yeah. So which scientist talked about it?
From when?
That there was total darkness in the deepest of the oceans.
Well, I'm not familiar with all 4,000 years of science. I don't think you are either. But again, it's quite easy to just figure out.
You'd expect them to say that, right?
It's easy to figure out.
You'd expect them to say that.
It's easy to figure out. Yeah. Very easy.
Okay. What about deep? Firstly, you couldn't provide anything. No problem. You can look into it.
I don't need to. We can all do that right now.
You made a claim.
Using our brains, we can figure that out.
Remember,
using our brains.
When you asked me,
it's very simple.
Like, are you sure no one knew about it?
But it's very
so
simple.
I'm asking the same question.
This one's
are
very
you sure?
But this one's very simple.
Knew about it?
This one's very simple.
Is it?
Yes, of course it is. Use your brain.
So your brain can tell you that in the deep oceans there's total darkness.
You can use your brain. You know that it's obviously lighter as you go up from where we are. As you go down, it's going to get darker.
Yeah. So you'd expect.
But why do you think he knows? Why do you assume Muhammad was stupid?
Look,
I don't.
You'd expect people to have known this.
Why not? But why is that difficult to figure out?
1 second.
You know that if you go in 2 meters of water,
do you agree?
10, it's good. There's less light, so it gets darker. Why is that difficult to figure out?
Why would it go up so dark?
Because there's no light.
How do you know light totally
How do you know
reflects
there's no
back?
light? That's the point.
How do you know there's no light?
The same way you do.
There could
You've
be
got
objects
brains.
down there that make light.
But doesn't mean it's not darkness. There's some people there.
When you look at deep in the ocean, can you see anything down there?
You don't see absolute darkness. You can see as much as you can see.
No, but you can extrapolate very simply.
No. When you say
it gets darker as you go down. It's not.
We would expect some people who lived their lives in the oceans, they should have talked about it.
Who live their life in the ocean? Who are you talking about?
Don't people go and have their fishing and everything in the oceans? Like fishermen?
Oh, sure, okay.
And scientists who study. So you would expect something. So what I would like you to do again, because you are someone who's inquisitive in your mind, go and find out 1400 years ago from that time backwards.
Yeah, I don't think you need some scientist to tell you that. It's just common sense. It's very common sense.
Okay.
Very common sense.
Is the universe static or expanding?
So we're going to a different topic now.
I'm talking about common sense. Common sense. Is the universe static or expanding?
According to me?
No, according to common sense.
Expanding.
No, it's static. Like if I'm just looking at it, it's static.
According to common sense.
Not necessarily.
According to common sense. So you can see the universe is expanding, right?
Or anything like you're
You are so clever. So you look at the universe You look at the skies and the universe expanding.
If you believe, yeah, definitely. Certainly, if you believed in
Okay.
God, because if you believed in God, you'd say, well, He created it, and so maybe He expanded it, moved things out of the way, right? Expanded.
One second.
I'm not guessing.
Common sense, right?
What you see. Nothing looks expanding to me right now.
Can anyone see the universe
So
expanding?
appearances can be deceiving.
Okay,
right?
raise your hands
Okay,
if
so
you
then
think
it's
the
not
universe
so
is
clever.
expanding by looking at it. If you ask common sense, you would expect most people, because common sense is available within most people. So why are most of the people, he's a Christian, ask him, can he see the universe expanding?
So Allah has no common sense because He created it.
Right. So now, you brought common sense.
Did anyone talk about the universe expanding before the 7th century?
One moment.
Absolutely, they did.
One moment. One moment. We are talking about common sense. Yeah? Common sense tells you, when you look at the universe, is the universe expanding? What does common sense tell you?
Well, it depends on your background. I'd
No,
say.
common sense, not background. Common sense.
Yeah, you could say that. Common sense, yeah.
So tell me, what
You could
part of
say-
your common sense
Okay, I'll tell
directs you
I'll
that the
tell
universe is
I'll tell you.
expanding?
You could look at yourself as a you could look at yourself as a being, and you could see how you started off small and you grew. You can extrapolate that to everything else you see, because it is true of everything else you see. Everything else natural starts off small and grows. You apply it to the universe. There you go, answered.
I didn't quite follow. Do you mind explaining again?
Okay.
I lost.
Okay. Here's how you could, by common sense, get to an expanding universe.
Yeah.
You could look at yourself
Yeah.
and every other living thing that starts off small and grows. You could say that same thing to the universe, it expands. And that's why there was expansion, there were ideas of expansion far before the 7th century or with Muhammad.
Do you know the
Yeah,
Earth?
common sense.
Okay. Is the
I
Earth
wasn't talking
expanding?
rubbish.
Is the Earth? I look at the Earth.
Yeah.
I look at myself. So I should see the
I know what
Earth.
you're going to say. I didn't say that had to be the way. I
One
said
moment.
through common sense you could come up with that.
No, common sense.
Through
So
common
I look
sense
at
you come
common
up with
sense. Now, let's use some common sense. So I look at everything's growing. So the Earth must be growing as well. Is the Earth increasing?
That's not what I said. You're misrepresenting what I said.
What am I missing?
I did not say that there's a one-to-one correlation. You have to believe that everything therefore grows. I said through common sense you could easily come to the conclusion.
So
that the
through
universe
common
is
sense,
expanding. So there
I
you
can
go.
easily come to the conclusion the Earth is expanding, right?
Yes, you could. You'd be wrong, but you could,
Now, why am I wrong?
because it isn't.
So it's against common sense.
You're misrepresenting what I'm saying again. I didn't say you. Therefore, you have to apply this to everything. I'm saying you could apply this to the universe.
Yeah. How long did the scientists come to use their common sense to find out the universe expanding? It should have been common sense to all people, even the Greeks, right? Greeks, Romans, Persians.
People before the 7th century, did anyone before the 7th century believe in expansion in the universe?
Let me ask you this question again.
Yes, they did.
The scientists from 7th century, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 20th century, right?
Before that.
19th century. So let's take from the 7th to the 19th century. The scientists who have common sense, according to you, they knew the universe is expanding, right? They must have. Which scientist came up that, according to our common sense, the universe is expanding? Scientists from the east, west, middle?
So Allah was the scientist.
No, man, just
Yeah.
stop talking. Stop talking.
That's the problem.
One verse Allah says,
That's the
He
ignore it.
heaven first, then earth.
So now we realize,
He says,
there's a
earth
limit.
first, then heaven.
There's a limit to common
So
sense.
Allah is the scientist.
You cannot use your
there is
common
no
sense
common sense
and to
in
say the
God.
universe is expanding. Because people were quite firm to say the universe is static. It took
I disagree
it took a lot of scientific revolution to convince the people, scientists, to say that the universe is not static.
That's not
When
what
they
we're
looked at the
talking about.
redshift, when they looked at the redshift, how the stars are receding from each other, and now the cosmic background radiation, then they became convinced that actually no, the universe is not static. The universe is expanding. So I've given you two examples.
Which was there far before the Quran, yeah. The Bible, you can read the Bible that way. Talk about the expanding universe.
I'm
Yes, it
talking
does.
about
Yes,
common
it does.
sense. Common sense, right?
You're jumping all over the place.
No, I'm not jumping all over the place. You have.
My claim is that before the Quran, people talk about
Why
some
don't you
expanding
teach Allah
universe.
first?
And there you go, so
Common
there's nothing
sense.
miraculous in the Quran.
Who's talking about miracle?
Allah says,
Okay, getting it right. So did the Bible, which you don't
Yeah.
believe in. So, there
So
you go.
remember what I said.
So the Bible says it too, so what?
in other verse, he says,
Just talk about it.
Allah created
The Bible
heaven
says it too,
first,
so
then
what?
Okay.
earth.
So now what I'm asking is, the concept of probabilities and guesswork. If let me establish what I mean by that. If someone is just merely guessing,
which I'm not said is only happening, of course.
If someone
hearing
is
things and learning.
So if someone is hearing as well, they would have known, and they would have made statements which, by our current knowledge, would have known that it was wrong. Just like how they believe in the pre-formation theories of how the human embryo developed in the womb of the mothers. The Bible talks about how the menstrual blood is involved in the procreation of a human being, curdling like the cheese and so on, which we know to be incorrect. The Quran should have picked this up.
The Bible says.
You should find out what it says exactly about the menstrual blood.
Where does it say anything about curdling cheese?
I mean, it's common knowledge around. If you don't know, I can give it to you.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying
please
is,
do. I'd like to read that.
What I'm asking you, I want you to go and research this topic and ask yourself, if the Quran is not simply guessworking, making guesswork, it's also taking information from what is known, it should have taken that information as well, which was common knowledge. That yes, menstrual blood is how the curdling of cheese happens. This is what exactly menstrual blood does. Right. But the Quran doesn't talk about that. So somehow it's filtering something that is wrong. And it's talking about how the embryo develops in stages, creation after creation, which is now knowledge to us with our science and technology. So guesswork and information borrowing doesn't help. But what I want to make this point is, when the Quran gives you examples after examples after examples, getting all of it right when it could have got it wrong, the possibility of guesswork goes down. And when we look at the information content that was available at that time, at that period, and we compare what the Quran is talking about, At-Tariq, the example I gave you about the hammering sound of the pulsars, I can give you many examples. I've given you 4 maybe so far. What I'm establishing is this principle. How is the Quran able to describe information which we now know to be correct, and it was not possible for people to have known this unaided? You didn't talk about how the Quran talks about deep interoceanic waves.
Okay.
How did they get to know that?
What's the verse there? Tell me the verse.
Yeah.
I've not... Does it use the phrase deep oceanic waves?
Yeah, Bahrun Lujji.
Which means what?
Deep oceans.
Okay, deep oceans.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
deep sea.
That's not.
When I say it's not shallow seas.
Yeah.
Yep. Covered by waves.
What's the verse?
24:40.
Can I read it? I've not heard this. You mind if I read it?
Yeah. I'll give you the full verse. You can read it from the Quran itself.
Darkness in the deep sea.
So the Bible is written way before Quran, and Bible is talking about deep ocean.
It's like the darkness.
Here.
So it says darkness in the deep sea. That's not impressive.
So
covered by waves.
Quran is copying from the Bible.
This is the
I don't
Quran.
know. I just feel like the way you describe it is really not like what it says.
I'm not.
You're sort of adding. You're sort
I'm
of
not
making
adding. I'm not gonna.
it sound a lot better than.
I'm not gonna add anything. I'm gonna just read.
Read.
I'm gonna just read and see what you understand.
Well, I just read it. Sure. It said deep.
No, you
waves.
haven't read the full verse. They only quoted.
Well, what you showed me, but yeah.
Yeah, but this is what I'm going to show you now. Okay. Quran, translation, Arabic and English. So I'll just read the English translation for you.
Let's go.
Or like utter darkness in the deep sea, there covers a wave above which is another wave, above which is a cloud. Okay, layers of darkness.
Nothing there about. Sorry, where were these deep oceanic waves you were talking about? I must have missed that one.
You need to read and understand what you read.
Okay, I apologize. I tried to go on.
So it talks about how there are waves.
Upon waves upon waves. Sure.
Wait, waves.
Nothing about deeper in the
covered by waves.
Nothing about
covered by clouds.
Yeah.
So clouds, waves, and waves.
Yeah, waves. Like you can go to the seaside and see waves upon waves. But go on.
No.
Yes.
This is not about waves upon waves. This is what we're talking about.
What you just said.
No. فوقه. Look. موج من فوقه موج من فوقه سحاب. So the words that are used, one above the other. So this the waves that you see, it's just one wave just splashing.
One wave goes on to the other, then the other like that, and that's how.
No.
Yeah,
you don't have waves.
Go to the seaside,
You don't have.
That's what you see.
You don't have waves upon which is waves upon which is waves.
Sure you do. Waves come in and out. Another one on top. Another one on top. Go to the seaside, man. You'll see it. If there's some waves, you'll see it.
Look.
Nothing there about deep oceanic waves. I knew it. You read that into there. It's not in there.
Firstly,
Sorry, it's not in there.
Firstly, let's understand what the verse is saying. The clouds, right? How far is the clouds? Min fawqihi sahab. So the clouds must be.
It's a bit distracting. But sure, go on.
So when the Quran talks about waves, above which are waves and above which are clouds. So where would we expect the clouds? Just above the waves, right?
Well, on your view, then it should go wave, cloud. Like the cloud is on top of the sea.
No. In my view, when the Quran describes a phenomena in which there's a wave, and clouds. In your understanding, the wave and the wave are just on top of each other.
Which is, exactly.
Yeah. So let's be consistent then in this approach of hermeneutics.
Sure.
So the clouds should be on top of the waves, right?
Well, they are.
No, immediately on top of it.
No, where is it immediately?
You're twisting your logic.
They build.
Wait, hear it. Who says it's immediately?
Yeah.
Good. So now you're going to
Waves are here and clouds are there. Waves upon waves can still be down here while clouds are up there.
No. I think you're being consistent now. Good. So who says it needs to be just above each other? Right. Let's use this hermeneutic principle. So you have the second wave, which is the surface waves, and then the clouds. It doesn't have to be above each other. So why do we then have to have the first wave just below the first wave? It could be just like quite a distance. And that's exactly what we observe in deep oceanic currents. This is the consistent approach in hermeneutics.
I don't know, man. I don't think there's a human on Earth who would read that in English and get your interpretation at all. That is nonsense.
Do you know what?
That is such a gigantic
Marine
stretch.
biologists, scientists themselves looked at this.
Maybe it sounds better in Arabic, but in English, that sounded like waves upon waves, as you'd see at the beach, with clouds above them, not deep oceanic waves.
What I'm
you
asking,
read that into there, as I thought you might.
can you come here, just in front of me?
Jonah.
Just in front of me. He's really being so nuisance to my ears.
Well, he's not with me,
so what I'm saying, we need to be consistent.
Where'd you get that? Any of that said? What you were telling me was not what it said in the verse.
I am disappointed with your